Welcome to Spark Sessions. I'm your host, Sonya Locke, and this girl is on fire. Today's guest is igniting a bold new era. Tisha Thompson is the CEO and founder of LYS Beauty, the first Black-owned clean cosmetic brand to launch at Sephora. The name LYS stands for Love Yourself, and Tisha calls it a love letter to anyone who has ever felt unseen and a reminder that we are worthy, enough, and beautiful just the way we are. Her impact is being recognized far beyond the beauty counter, from being named one of Georgia's fastest growing companies by ACG Atlanta to recently securing an 8-figure Series A funding, a milestone achieved by less than 0.4% of Black female founders. Tisha has built a company that proves quality, inclusivity, and accessibility can not only coexist, they can thrive. With confidence without compromise as her mission and love yourself as her mantra, she is rewriting the rules of business and beauty from the inside out. Tisha, thank you so much for joining us today. I have been just in awe of you since I saw you at the ACG. Your speech literally brought me to tears. You have accomplished so much, and your message is just amazing. It's far beyond beauty. It is a message for the world about, loving yourself, and that's, I think, what it's all about. Yeah. And just inclusivity. And I'm so honored to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
So I like to start everything with kind of like that initial spark, that roots to rise. How did you get to where you are today? Where did you come from? What was your background that gave you this fire to launch a worldwide beauty brand as you have?
I think I come from 2 military parents.
Oh, wow.
So both my mom and dad served in the Army. And so I lived all over the world. I had the pleasure of living in Germany for 8 years. But I moved around every 3 to 4 years of my entire childhood. And I think that definitely is that one distinctive element that I can say really helped, build, I think, that fire and that passion in me to kind of conquer exciting, new, change, different things, which I think are all of the things that we deal with as an entrepreneur. And so I think that was kind of the catalyst to, really the ultimate beginning. But my parents were, in the Army, and moving around required me to have to make new friends all the time. And I think as a girl, the best way that I found to make friends was that common denominator of all things beauty. Like we all loved lip gloss and hair products and hair accessories. And so I found myself really enjoying and doing those sort of things. So I was always the girl doing everyone's makeup or hair. I did the girls' hair for prom and homecoming. So that ended up being that bonding moment for me when I was making new friends. And I found I unfortunately at the time, I think I used makeup more to kind of fit in, right? So it was kind of that thing that I used to fit in and trying to find who I was. It's so cool that, as it transitioned through, that makeup ended up being the very thing that allowed me to find who I was versus changing who I was. So we can get into all of that. But I think, that started it off for me. And I really had this passion of wanting to do beauty. But, having strict parents, they were like, we want you to go to college. We want you to get a real job. I think 25 years ago, the vision, and that's why representation is so important, because the vision and really seeing the ability to make money as a makeup artist or as a beauty founder just didn't exist, right?
Right.
Especially for women who looked like me. And so I think my parents initially were just you got to go to college and you got to get an office job or some sort of job that you don't have to struggle. And so I ended up going to college. I was obedient and subordinate, and I did that. And I'm glad I did, because it helped foster the business acumen and really all the foundation that it took for me to really be able to eventually run my own business. So, I did major in management and finance, but my side hustle was makeup. And I worked at MAC for several years. I did music videos and brides on the weekends. So it was my way of being able to get that creative outlet. And, it was really cool because I landed a really fun accounting job for a beauty brand. And that is what I say kind of started it all. I was doing, the very thing that paid me in the vertical that
Right.
I really wanted to be at. And so that's essentially where the door kind of aligned with kind of that initial career trajectory in the space.
And so funny you mentioned two things, one about community and then also about military. We had two women on our podcast that were some of the EY winners, and they founded their military spouses. And one of their sayings that they said is because they move every 2 years, right? And that was kind of part of your identity is we don't belong anywhere, so therefore we belong everywhere. And it was about kind of that bridging that community, which your brand does that so much more than beauty. And like also talking about doing the makeup and doing, which I wish I had a friend like you because I'm horrible with makeup. But no, I totally understand how that is more than just the beauty side.
Yeah.
It's the community side.
Yeah, it's an emotional connection. It's a way we kind of cope, especially as a young child, right? Like finding that common denominator amongst us that can unite us. And I find that beauty does that in such a powerful way. It really makes us feel good. It's interesting because it's not something that we need, but it's something that makes us feel so good. And so in that feeling, I find that it ends up being a need you never knew that you really had to have. And so, I think growing up, it took a while for me to connect those dots and be able to understand like how healing beauty has been, both for myself, but being a makeup artist, how you can do that for other people. I think that's where the passion ended up really growing. Because when, I'd hand someone a mirror and then how they'd be, how'd make them feel it was like a high for me. It was like really exciting to be able to change someone's life and perspective just with a stroke of a brush. So it was something that I knew for sure I was destined to be at, but it wasn't really where my career and where I was able to make money doing it. And so, it ended up being an interesting pivot for me because even though I was doing accounting in this space, I was like, I need to get in the marketing side. I'm a makeup artist, but I'm looking at P&Ls all day, and I'm like, how do I get on this other side? And I made the decision to take a demotion one year to be a marketing coordinator. And I went opening Ulta locations and stocking beauty shelves and having events and just doing whatever I could do to get my foot in the door. And it was the best decision ever. And that's what I always teach, young people. It's like, sometimes it's okay to take that step back to move forward because it's all about being on the path of where your purpose is and what you want to do. And so I knew that beauty was where I wanted to be. And so it's like, if that's ultimately the decision I needed to make. It's like, I got to invest in me that way. And so that's ultimately what happened. And I quickly went up the ranks and, found myself being an executive running an entire beauty brand, managing product development, marketing, social media. So, after a 15-year stint, I learned a lot. And then I said, maybe I should take the leap and try and do this myself.
And also too, as an entrepreneur, I always say there's three sides of a business. You have sales and marketing, you have operations, and you have finance.
Yeah.
So you have the perfect blend of all three. You knew
joke
what your brand was, and you knew the operations, like what it took.
I always joke it's my superpower.
Yeah, for
People
sure.
always say like, how, it's like, yeah, it's probably my superpower because I think I'm definitely wired a little differently, having all those different perspectives as a founder and as a CEO. Whereas typically I see a lot focus in one of the areas predominantly, and then they kind of bridge it with, whether it be a partner or support. And I find, having sat at the helm of all those spaces within my vertical, I think has helped me a lot.
And what was that, I guess, that spark where you knew what your purpose was that made you launch out on your own? I mean, you were very successful where you were.
Yeah.
Large global company that you were working on, and then you just
Yeah.
did it all on your own, which
I
is
know.
scary. That's a
Yeah.
scary leap. How did
Yeah.
you do that?
It was really, it was an unfortunate scenario. I lost my dad.
I'm sorry.
I hear that a lot from a lot of entrepreneurs. There's something big, some pivotal moment that really, shifts their mindset. Whether they were raised that way and they saw it every day of their life, or something traumatic, excuse me, happened. Um, but for me, it was, the loss of my dad. I think, you know, I realized quickly in that unexpected situation that life is really short.
Yeah.
And I realized that, I just felt I had so much more to give to an industry. And if I don't do it, I will probably regret it. And I think I may have either been in therapy or counseling or talking to someone, and in an emotional session, it was essentially like, if you left this world, what is the one thing you'd regret not doing? And it was like not starting a beauty brand. And it's like, well, then you need to start a beauty brand. And so that's why I made the decision. And so that was ultimately the catalyst. I mean, I think the problem that kept me from doing it before I lost my dad, and I had been in the industry for a very long time, and I think had the knowledge and the ability to have done it many, many years before. I think it was I knew too much. I think sometimes we know too much. And I think what makes a very powerful, amazing entrepreneur are the ones who are all in and really don't know anything. And they just take that crazy leap and then it just accelerates. And I think for a little while I knew too much. And I think losing him reset my brain. It was almost like I was instantly a goldfish. And I forgot all of that. And it was just like blinders were up. And it was just like, I'm going to do this. And because I knew how expensive it was, I knew how hard it was to scale. I knew how difficult it was to get distribution and keep that distribution. I knew how difficult it was to get funding. I just knew too much. And those were the things that kept me from trying before. So I always say that one thing changed my life in so many ways. And it's the weirdest thing because your life can be changed for the good and the bad all in that very same day.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's such a powerful message,
Yeah.
and I think that's what gives people also hope.
Yeah.
We never know why something happens,
Yeah.
and you can either dwell into what happened and let that take you down,
Yeah.
or you can figure out that that may have been a catalyst for something else, and
Mhm.
that's just beautiful how
Yeah.
you just said, "Okay, I know the barriers,
Yeah.
I know the problems, and what
Exactly.
barriers you faced." I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, funding and the beauty industry is not inclusive.
Mm.
So what were some of the things that you didn't that was so absent from all the companies you worked for and what you saw about the industry that made you know, I can do this better.
Yeah.
I can do this with a purpose.
It was a big risk because it's super uncharted territory. Very few founders look like me. I mean, I was the first Black-owned clean makeup brand in Sephora.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and we think about how many years Sephora's been in existence. We think about how many brands they have. And for me, here still in like 2021 is when we launched it. To be the first is like wild to me. So there were so many uncharted territories involved in doing this. So for me, it was, not having seen it before made it a little scary. But I think again, having those blinders up and just being like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna blaze that trail. I'm gonna do it because I just saw a vision and I saw an opportunity, and I wanted to create something that just was very unique and never been done before, and just really shake up the industry and I talked to so many consumers and it was things that people were wanting and desiring. So I knew there was demand. It's just somebody had to be the one to take the leap to do it. So I'm excited.
And it's not just being the first Black owned cosmetic brand, you're also a clean brand.
Yeah. So
and
that yeah.
inclusive. And
Mhm.
that's another thing that they said could not be done. That you
No.
couldn't be affordable, clean,
Yeah.
and have the inclusivity to be able to hit all the different shades.
Yeah.
Never been done.
I know. It's frustrating that we've had to compromise for so long and not really having the optionality. And I think what I love the most is being able to show and create options for everyone, right? It's like we all deserve to have options when we walk down the consumer aisle. We all deserve to be able to afford different things, try different things, experience different things. It shouldn't be just geared toward one or the other. And so I wanted to like debunk that myth to say, listen, like you can do really good for you formulations that actually work for everyone, and that are more accessible in a price point perspective. So, I think we've definitely shown that. And I think you're seeing a lot of the other brands, which I think is so great, rise to the occasion, because that's, I think, the important thing is when you set a new bar, then everyone raises up to that bar, which is the goal, right? The goal isn't to be on that bar by yourself. The goal is to bring the industry up. And I think we've done that in a really big way.
Well, you certainly did. I mean, talk about all the barriers that you broke. And you're right, you set the bar. They
Yeah.
said it couldn't be done, you just did it. And tell me, first of all, I want you to tell me a little bit more about Love Yourself
Yeah.
and the triangles.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also just such a neat story. I mean, your brand, your marketing is just beautiful.
Totally.
But tell me a little bit about your product. I mean, because it went viral. I mean, like you sold out in 10 days.
Yes. When we originally launched the brand, we projected 4 months, and we like sold out in 10 days. And we continuously continue to sell out. And the brand itself, Love Yourself LYS Beauty, really is this kind of love letter to me, as a reminder to say it's really important to remember who you are, love who you are. Creating a community of people who've always felt left out or not seen, building confidence. I always tell people, if you don't buy a single product from us, if you follow and be a part of our community, the goal is to fill your cup and to teach you the importance of just being confident. When you walk in this world confident, with your head held high, it's just the amount of things you can conquer, the amount of things that you can do and accomplish is insane. And so for us, that was kind of the vision behind really creating a brand that was rooted in community, bringing a bunch of people together who really, we wanted to make sure that you are unapologetically who you are. And we did that through really clean, skincare infused products that are better for you. Again, affordable, inclusive. And I made all of the products triangular, and I wanted to do that because it's the Delta symbol, and Delta means change. And I think that's one thing we can all guarantee that life is going to have. It's going to have change, but I think it's all in how we embrace the change and how we communicate and deal with that change. And I find far too often we're very hard on ourselves. We talk terrible to ourselves. I mean, we say the most cruelest things to ourselves. If we really think about it, we say things to ourselves that we would never say to another human. And I always like to tell people, when you do your makeup routine, when you sit down and you have that 5, 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever your routine is in the day, when you touch that triangle, we want it to be that spark to remind you that you have the power to change how you talk and treat yourself. And every single day should be a day that you honor you, you love you. And so that starts the beginning of your day, and that changes your perspective, the way you walk in the world, the way you talk in the world. Like it just makes us all better as people when we start with inner, love and affirmations. So everything around the brand is all rooted in that. All of the products are named after positive affirmations to remind you. So say you go pick up your bronzer and it says worthy or confident or self-love, strength, like all of these words that are just empowering words to you, that it's just set to remind you how to live your life and go about your day. So we want to be that intentional purpose behind the brand, and that community is rooted in that. And I think that's what's been really, really nice and welcoming to the beauty industry, because it's been rooted in changing who you are, which is how my journey with makeup started. And now we want to remind people that, don't use makeup to change who you are. Use it as a form of, whether it's, creativity, therapy, self-expression, but never to change who you are. Like, be who you are, just totally unapologetically. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even have to ask you when your passion met your purpose, because your purpose is why you were put on this earth is so much more than just the beauty of the beauty brand. It is your message. And it's just powerful, and it's passionate. And so I want to thank you for also having the guts to take that challenge and do what you've done by yourself.
Thank you for that.
So, I mean, all of your positivity, you sound like you just are walking on clouds, but I know it's not always been that way. I mean, just even getting funding, less than 0.4% of Black female founders actually get funding. It's not even a percentage. And it's almost like you also have one chance to get it right.
Yeah.
So aside from, or I guess talk about some of those early challenges that you faced. You knew what you were facing when you walked into it, right?
Yeah.
Like you already said, oh my gosh, this is going to be impossible. But
Yeah.
tell me about some of those challenges and how you overcame them.
Yeah. I made the decision to wait to get funding. We just got funding this year, actually, and we're 4 years old. Most brands typically launch with funding, or at least within the first 12 months, because when you launch a retailer like Sephora, it's extremely expensive. But I think, my experience really did help lend the ability to bootstrap for several years and be profitable. But it took a lot. There was a lot of just hard days, a lot of grit, and a lot of just trying to figure out, do we do this versus that? I think, my biggest challenge in the beginning when I launched this business was I launched it during COVID.
I know, and still sold out.
And still, yeah, it was, everyone was like, you're crazy. Why would you launch a beauty brand at a time when everyone's wearing masks?
Exactly.
Well, the blinders are up. You can tell me nothing. I'm doing this. And it was just something that I just could feel in my soul that I needed to do and that the world needed. So I just continued to forge forward. And I kept, hearing this voice in my mind, like, the masks are not going to be forever. And this is the perfect time to build while the world's kind of quiet and you have a little bit of time to really focus on things. Just, build with, head down, because, when the world opens up, you will be able to then just be primed and ready to go and flourish. And so I really, thankfully, I think a lot of my struggles happened at a time where I didn't have a lot of the outside world distractions. My kids were home, being homeschooled. So I wasn't, there wasn't as many events. We weren't in sports. So I wasn't going all around the world. Everyone was pretty much remote. So you could get people much easier. You could do Zooms. You can do deals really quickly. Things that could take 3 to 4 months, you could execute in a week, because we were all kind of in this different space, where we all work virtually and we weren't really running around the same. And I feel like that really helped a lot of the challenges that we faced early on be able to be less catastrophic at a really intimate time of the growth of the business. Inventory and really getting things in were really tough during that time. It was really hard to get product in the country. In the beauty space, 90% of all packaging is done in Asia. That's just our industry. It's very little that exists here in the US. It's the machinery doesn't exist, the technology capability, the cost. So just to get packaging, it's just it impacted the entire industry. It wasn't just me. And so dealing with those challenges as a brand new brand, where you have customers who are eager and excited for something you've marketed and you've said, hey, I've created this, and you can't get it. It was tough. It was a lot of sleepless nights, and you don't want to disappoint people, but I think we found our way. And for me, I think being able to know the order of operations in a big way, I think was really helpful for me. Having had experience as running a business and doing this I kind of knew a little bit of the roadmap. So I kind of knew which doors to open first. It's you got to have omni, right? A lot of brands focus on D2C, but I knew yeah, retailers are closed right now and everything's online, but it's going to open one day. So this is probably a really good time to capitalize on some shelf space and get in the door. So when it's ready to go, you can be primed. And so those were all kind of strategic decisions that were, everyone was kind of going left. I was going right.
You were. I mean, I like I said, launching during COVID when everybody's in sweatpants and at home and then wearing a mask. Yeah. But also it kind of goes to your underlying with how your beauty products is more about confidence.
Yeah.
And so I can see why that it sold out in 10 days. Mm-hmm. because you were giving more of a message than, than what I guess the beauty industry has been doing it for hundreds of years, right?
Yes. And everyone's focused on wellness. And so having a brand that's rooted in clean and better for you ingredients really resonated as well, because everyone's really focused on, what they put in and on their bodies. So there was just a lot of really positive things that really aligned really great, but I think all at a really challenging time as well. So it was just like a constant tug of war, like knowing that we're doing the right thing, knowing that we're priming ourselves to be in the right position, but at a time that, was also really, difficult as well. So we had to navigate a lot of things during that time. But, again, slow and steady. I always tell people like one foot in front of the other. You don't have to launch in all doors day one. You don't have to launch, in this massive way with a full, assortment. We launched with 6 products very strategically. We didn't want to be, this overwhelming, launch that would, make us capital strained. We needed to be just digestible enough to where we could replenish, put the money as we sold it back into the business and grow. So a lot of things were done intentionally so that way we could like just be digestible, grow. I always tell people crawl, walk, run. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's this enticement sometimes, especially in the beauty space, to just go all in,
Yeah.
and you see like this mega launch and you're in 1,000 retail locations, or it's a lot, you know what I mean? And I think, sometimes it's good to start small, it's your small little, we started with half a shelf with 6 products, very modest. And I was fine with that, you know what I mean? And I think that for us was the best approach to be able to navigate a really difficult time.
It was very purposeful.
Very, very much so. Very much so.
And so how do you keep that discipline with all of that you've done with it? Like I said, it's grown a lot. And I actually was going to ask you about the everything coming from Asia, because I learned that a couple of months ago with the whole tariff war, that 90% of the beauty products are come from there.
The packaging, it keeps me up a lot. And it's being strategic now because, when you talk about taking 20 to 40% out of your business right away, how do you pivot? How do you shift? What changes? What costs do you cut? These are all things that we have to make the decision as founders, because it all impacts the bottom line just instantly. Like one day you wake up and you're like, oh, there goes 30% of my business, So you have to be strategic and you have to like really think through, and I think, do you raise prices? Do you, cut marketing? Do you reduce staffing? Like there's so many of these decisions that, strain us small businesses that we really have been impacted by and we have to think through. But I think, again, starting a business at a time so volatile, it almost is like I have that body armor on already and we're just ready to go. Like we already know, throw whatever you can throw at me at this point. We're going to do our very best to fight through it. I find you win some days, you lose some days, but it's all about how you get up and keep going. And just knowing that this is, something that I'm just destined and purpose to do. And so I'm going to fight to the end, and so right now we're just excited to finally have VC, because for the first 3 years of the business, we bootstrapped the business. And, now that we have a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit, enough, to do some really cool things, because I think the biggest thing is, there's been a lot of community that has sought, after brands like us. But now we're able to kind of peel back the onion and find those people that may have not known we existed, but need a brand so much like us in their life. And so that's kind of really what this allows us to do.
Yeah.
Get out in the community, be in spaces that people haven't had a chance to experience us. Maybe there are people that aren't on social media, doing different initiatives with, college students, our scholarship that we do, and, just being able to do more things that can help, better the world and give back. So that's what that additional infrastructure is allowing us to do, and bring a partner in too. I also strategically waited because I kind of felt like I didn't know everything, but I kind of had that early stage playbook, having done it for a number of years. And so I kind of felt like I got, a little bit of I got this kind of thing for the beginning stages. And I felt like, okay, I got it to a big enough space to where one, I could be strategic and not have to give away a lot of my company.
Right.
That's also really important to consider, right? When you talk about the amount of funding that goes to Black and brown businesses, traditionally those deals are structured very differently, and they're not as lucrative sometimes, right? And so if you've not proved scale and profitability, you could find yourself giving away a lot more equity than you want to do. And so I think proving the model, the concept, de-risking the business for the investor was really critical for us. And I think we were able to do that. And it allowed us to bring a partner in that could help us get to the next level. I mean, I want to be, one of the first beauty brands to, reach 100 million valuation as a Black-owned beauty brand. Like it just, these are uncharted territories that's not existed. And I want to kind of do that. But how do you do that without the right partnership and mentorship and guidance? And I think being able to have that now is really important. Representation matters so much. And so, I owe so much to so many of my mentors that have really helped me get through these kind of uncharted waters, especially for Black and brown founders. Like these are new endeavors that we're chartering, and it's just been so amazing to learn it. And now I'm like, who can I tell? Who can I share this knowledge with? Because it's almost like going to a magic show and then being let behind the curtain, and you're like, oh, that's how that works. It's really, really interesting. Really interesting to see and learn and be a part of, and it's really, really exciting.
You're learning it for all future generations. You are truly a trailblazer. I would put money down right now. You will break that barrier of over 100 million. I know that you have the capability of that, and because you're steering the ship.
Yeah.
And like I said, your company is more than how wonderful your products are. That has also defied all of those odds, but it is your vision, your purpose, and your message that you have.
Yeah, I pray we go to the archives on this episode one day, and we can replay this as the foreshadowing for that.
For sure.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
For sure. So I think Love Yourself has shown that authenticity and inclusion can actually build a better business and thrive together. But society still has differing opinions of that. So I know some of the statistics is that 68% of consumers say they only buy based on companies that have a societal impact or that match their values. But then 80% of them also believe that it's just a marketing ploy, right? That it's just whatever they're wanting to try to show as far as inclusivity and everything. So beyond the cosmetic counter, back into the boardroom, how can a brand or a product be a catalyst for a deeper conversation about what inclusivity means and how it can make us more powerful, and I guess giving a voice for those that have been unseen? I mean, like, especially in the beauty industry, not only are you an anomaly, there was no brands that had representation for women of color, and they're 89% of the consumers, right? But there was all the shades were made for people like me, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, how do we change society, and what does DEI mean?
Yeah. I think a lot of it starts with the brands really owning, that authenticity, like out of the gate from the product and the brand, the DNA of the business itself. And I think if you have a company rooted in diversity from the onset, I think it makes it a lot easier to go out in the world and be truly authentic in that space. I think, having, people in your, executive team and on the team, making those decisions, helping create products, ideating the marketing that look like the world that we serve is so important. I think a lot of times we don't see that diversity in, the boardrooms or the business side, but you see it on the shelf of that brand when you walk them in the store, and then it just misses the mark. And it misses the mark because it wasn't really done with the right vision or representation behind it. And it's difficult, right? Like, I pride myself in having a team that is very diverse and has everyone. And so, how something may work on your skin is very different than how something may work on my skin, or how it dries down, or how it works, or, the color. And so if I don't have someone who looks like you in the room helping make that decision, then I'm just making a guesstimate or a judgment on an entire community of people, without any sort of sound rationale. And you'd be amazed how many brands do that in our industry. How many brands will put products on the shelf for people who look like me, who've never even had a conversation or talked about it or developed it with us at the table. And then we wonder why what's being served is not good, or why it doesn't work, or why that consumer is fickle to try or support, because they've just been served things that haven't really been developed really truly for them. And in that case, they really are marketing ploys. And so I think, what I wanted to do was really be a catalyst to kind of shift that narrative, and to make sure that we really face that head on from the onset. I know that, there comes with a natural element of built-in credibility, being a Black woman making products that naturally, Black women are going to assume, well, she's Black, she clearly has got this. And I think that it's really important that, founders who don't look like me make sure that they really do build, an organization and operation around them that looks diverse, like the world that we're serving, especially when it comes to beauty. If that's your message that you're speaking, if that's what your shelf looks like that you walk through. I mean, there's brands who, maybe not, inclusivity may not be a big focus on their business, and that's fine. Everybody deserves to create whatever they want to create. But if that's your leading marketing strategy, I think it's really important to be authentic in leading with that. And so for us, we want to make sure everyone feels seen from the onset. Black women far too long have been extensions, the afterthought. You know what I mean? It's like, let's create this product and then let's extend the shade range later to service them. And that's disheartening. It's hurtful when you really think about it, right? It makes me really feel like a second class, citizen, or second class to your brand, and not truly a part of the vision from the beginning of the business. And so, for us, we wanted to really make sure that we created our brand that everyone really felt included from the onset. And so, that's the change that we really wanted to be a catalyst in. And we really want to kind of move the conversation forward. I talked to so many amazing makeup artists and just young girls coming out of school, studying chemistry and development. And these women want to be on the bench, we call it, to help create products for women like us. And so I think it's important that we continue to all push each other forward together in that space, to make sure that we have that kind of rooted from the beginning.
And your inclusion is not just women of color, and it's of all colors, right?
Everyone.
It's,
Men,
Asian,
women,
Hispanic,
absolutely.
it's Caucasians, it's that's why you have 35 shades, right?
Yeah.
Is because it's not one shade,
Yeah.
it's just that inclusion of all of those different ones.
And my team represents that too, whether I have, Asian, Black, white, Hispanic, Indian, everyone is kind of really represented, which is really cool, because that's the world we serve. And, all of our communities, although we have such common threads that really weave us together, there's nuances that make us also different. That is important that we all collaborate together. There's things that I may not know about a Hispanic culture that is so important that we bring into our brand to be able to, speak to and represent to that community that we serve. And so having that, representation on my team is so important. I just think it's not something we've seen traditionally in the space. And I think being able to help be a part of that change it's just who we are, and it allows us to just be that authentic voice and representation right out of the gate.
I think authenticity is extremely important. And as you've seen, I think being diverse perspectives can help a company thrive.
Yeah,
And
1,000%. 1,000%.
And I think another part too is because you are in the beauty industry, and you are TikTok famous. I mean, you are viral on TikTok. I mean, that's one reason why your brand is like sells out all the time. How do you keep that social media message so it's not harming?
Mhm.
We have a lot of talk about how social media, especially with children, it
Yeah.
can be very lead to mental illness.
Yeah.
How do we keep that message positive?
Totally. I think that for us is so important with our brand of why we really want to instill such positive affirmations in our content, why everything is related to confidence and boosting, self-esteem, so that young girls, when they, find us as a brand and as a community, it helps to drown out a lot of that negative naysay elements that social can possibly have. We aim to be that like really good side of social media. We aim to be a refreshing, sense of content when you stumble upon us to say, wow, like I watched that and I feel good, versus man, like that just really depressed me. That's kind of how we aim to be and operate and function with our content and what we create, the creators we partner with, just people who are really out there spreading kindness. We have an entire franchise in our brand called Speak Love. It's an entire collection, and it's all of our lip products, and all of them are named Speak Love, and it's our Speak Love franchise. And it's really rooted in that conversation of leading with kindness, leading with love, filling people's cup, not tearing people down. And I think that is so important to do, to really, be that, that guidance for that next generation that is living in a technology era that, we're shaping them. We have the ability to shape, what they see. And so for us, that's really the strategy behind what we try to do. Just because it is what I wanted when I was growing up. You know what I mean? It was like, it's what I wanted to hear when, that first day of school, a new school again, that's, those are the words I wish I could have heard, or experienced or seen. And so that's kind of what my goal is to put out in the world.
And you're not afraid if others follow suit.
No.
If they all come along and say, oh, wow, look at how successful she is. I think we should start doing this. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It makes the world better.
1,000%. I think, you get more bees with honey. I really believe that. I think, just being a kind, genuine, nice human being, I promise you, even if you see a lot of things around you and you're like, man, that wasn't a good person and they're doing well, just don't worry. Like I'm big on like karma and all these other things. I'm like, you don't know what's going on in that person's life. You don't know. You just need to focus on you being kind, like living a life of purpose. And I promise if we all thought that way, I feel like we'd have a whole lot less issues. But
yes,
what do you do?
And being authentically you and loving yourself for it.
1,000%.
I think that's like always been the message from all of my successful women that I've had on the show is
1,000%.
they realize who they are.
Yeah.
And that's me.
Yeah, that's one thing, no one else can do, is be you. So you need to own it.
So you give so much to so many, and your positivity is just it inspires me just talking to you. But what fans your flame? I mean, what keeps you going? You're a mother, you're a CEO, you're a groundbreaker that is changing the world. So how do you fan your flame?
The first thing is my kids. I always say, being an entrepreneur is hard.
Yes.
It's really hard. But, it's to create a better life, generational wealth. It's to create mentorship and vision for my kids, right? To see a way, a different path, a unique perspective on life. And so everything I kind of do and endure, I always say is for them. And so spending time with them, still doing mom stuff, my kids are in sports. We're a 3-sport family: baseball, football, and basketball. So we
Oh my
play
gosh.
all year round.
Oh,
And I very rarely miss a game. I don't do practices. I have support for that, thankfully, but I try to build my schedule around attending and being at all of their activities. And so that's important for me, to be a present mom as well. I know sometimes they say you can have it all, you can't have it all at once, but I try to really, really prioritize being a mom. So that's important. My team is important to me. I'm really big on culture, and I'm really big on, I'm a Leo. And so my tribe is so important to me. And like, I'm super loyal. And so I do a lot for my team, and I love to just, create an environment where, I want people to wake up in the morning and be excited to go to work, like almost like it's Christmas, or like it's the first day of school. Like that excitement when you come into the office is like what I yearn to provide for my team. And so just a lot of initiatives always around what can I do to create an environment that, and builds and fosters passion around people who are all rooted and excited about beauty. So that fans my flame. My husband, who is sitting in here next to me off camera, but we've been together since I was 14, high
oh my
school sweetheart.
goodness.
And I would say, like, my flame probably would have been put out a long time ago if that sounding board wasn't there to keep me going and to be like a rock and support system. Because, again, what we're doing is very difficult and hard, and having that support is so important. And just reminding me, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, on days when it's like really, really rough, and I'm like, it's like, you got this, And so those are, I think, probably the biggest things that really help. Yeah,
And
keep
those
the
are
flame
all so
going.
important. And you're right about choosing the right life partner is very important,
So important.
definitely.
Makes a huge difference.
So I think we kind of have touched on this because also it's one of your fuels is your children, and that's one reason why you did step out.
Yeah.
But this is like the most important part. It's like passing the torch. That's why we're all here. Is how do we bring up that next generation, whether it be our kids or your employees in your community? What do you want your legacy to be, and what does passing the torch mean to you? What would you hope to instill in
Yeah.
your children and your employees and the community as a whole?
Yeah. I think I would love the legacy to be, empowering people to honor themselves and loving themselves, and living life that's purposeful with intention, I think is would be important for me. That's something I always like to tell my kids too. It's like, find that one thing in your life that you would love to do and never be paid doing it, and then go find a way to make money doing it. Like, that's the advice I always give, because then you're going to really wake up every single day living the most passion-filled life that you possibly can, because we only get one of them. And so that's kind of how I like to really guide and mentor. For me, I think that there's just an obligation for us to really help create um, this vision to help guide the next generation to be able to see, things that we didn't see, and then if they don't see it, how to push them to be the first to do it, and not be afraid to go down those uncharted territories, just because something hasn't been done before. I mean, I think that's all the more reason to do it, right? So, um, you know, living in your purpose is just so important. I can't stress how short life is. And so for me, that's kind of what I really, really want to continue to foster in everyone around me. And I do that with my team, with my kids, my family. It's like, okay, not happy at work. All right, what makes you happy? What do you want to do? You don't know? Okay, let's do this. I want you to do this. I want you to try that. Let's find let's figure out what makes you happy. And then let's find a way to monetize it.
That's a very good advice.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way when you were, let's say when you were 20? Or what would you go back and tell yourself when you were 20 like, look where you're at now?
Yeah. I think the strategy that I used, I didn't realize was a strategy. So now I tell young people all the time, I think being able to learn in an environment where I wanted to be for so long and then take the leap was actually really a unique strategy that I think worked in my favor. And so I always joke, if I would never start a pizza shop out of the blue because I don't know the first thing about a pizza shop, but I would probably go work for the best pizza chain ever and learn everything I could learn and then go start my own pizza shop. So that's kind of advice I always kind of lead with. If you're lost, you don't really know how to start, how to get going, be an apprentice. It's okay. I know sometimes we just want to instantly lead. We want to instantly be, at the top of the ranks and have our own thing. And sometimes it's okay to follow and learn and be guided. And then spread your wings and soar. And so it's not the only way, but it is kind of the approach that I took. And I think it's worked really well for me. And so I think that that's also really good advice that I like to give the future generations. It's learn from someone who is kind of doing being where you want to be, get mentors in that space, and then try to spread your wings versus just figuring out it's a bumpy road. It's a really bumpy road. And so if you can do it with this less scrapes and bruises, then try. But
we all have scrapes and bruises.
Yeah, we do. And everyone's got to learn the hard way. My dad used to say that all the time. He used to say, you're hard-headed. You have to learn everything the hard way. And so, yeah, I think whatever I can do to help, just make it a little less harder, but hard is okay.
Yes, and I think you have great advice. I think you're probably an excellent mentor with your team. I've seen your team out in public. Like I said, I ran into them in line for Beyonce, and they were all decked out. They were the cutest things. And just having so much fun.
We had a time.
That's important. I love that you bring that life and that energy because you spend most of your time at work. You got to make it what you love.
Yeah, some of these people are with me more than they're with their families.
Yes.
Right, and so it's important to make sure that we're planting those seeds in them that they can water and sow one day, which is great.
Okay, so now this is one of my other favorite sections is the fire round, okay? Very first thing that comes to mind, no hard questions, no wrong answers, okay?
Okay.
Morning person or night owl?
I'm a night owl for sure.
Okay. Song that always gets you dancing?
Ooh, it's got to be a Beyonce song because I'm a huge fan. I would say Crazy in Love by Beyonce.
One food that you could eat every day and never get tired of?
French fries. Obsessed. And if they're truffled, even more.
I was about to say what kind of French fries, truffled or Parmesan?
Yes, both.
Dream dinner guest, living or dead?
Honestly, it's a little sappy, but I would love to have dinner one more time with my mom and dad.
Oh,
it would be amazing.
No, that's a beautiful answer. I love that. Now you're going to get me all teary. One app that you can't live without, not work related?
Ooh, it's between Pinterest and Instagram. Probably Pinterest. I'm in my DIY and getting the home together eras. And so I think Pinterest right now is
And you're moving and you're doing your office. So I've got to have all that inspiration. That's good.
It's really fun time.
Your favorite LYS product to gift someone?
Usually I gift a lip because I think it's easier to do. And I love, being able to share the different colors. And so I'll kind of assume this person likes more of a pink color, or berry color, or coral. So I kind of choose it to their personality. So I usually a lip.
You must have gotten the answers ahead of time because the next question is lipstick, gloss, or lip oil?
Oh, can I have all? I guess lip oil. I can't stand chapped lips, when my lips feel dry.
Mine are always chapped.
So I would say a lip oil. Yeah, I always got to have some kind of oil on my lips.
Okay. Coffee, tea, or cocktails?
Cocktails. Give me a good cocktail.
Cheers to that. Here we go.
Yeah.
One thing that you always have in your bag.
One thing I always have in my bag, my cell phone. I always have that thing. It doesn't leave my side. So
I think we all do.
Yeah.
And final question, your guilty pleasure.
Oh. Probably shopping. It's so bad.
I
It's
know,
such
I
a
love
bad
shopping.
addiction, but yeah, I love to shop. It's like the best therapy ever.
It is, especially like online, like at night. Like I'm just
Yes.
sitting there
Oh
scrolling
my
and scrolling
goodness.
and scrolling.
And yeah, I love it so much. My husband does not love that I love that, by the way.
Do you do the girl math like my daughter? She'll buy a whole bunch of stuff and then she'll say, I made you so much
Yeah,
money today.
yes.
I'm like,
And I got free
no.
shipping.
Exactly.
Oh,
Oh,
exactly.
thank you. You're so fun. I mean, I love your energy. Last question, and one we ask every guest, and it's such an important one, is what is your true spark? What is the one truth that keeps you going every day?
Yeah. I would have to say the memory of my parents, especially in this journey. I find that they're like my guardian angels who really helped foster this vision and planted this seed that I'm now able to sow. And so I have these guardian angel numbers. It's 444, and every time I see them, and I see them often, I just know that's them, that they're there with me, and it means guidance, protection, and support. And so that is kind of what's rooted in me, kind of just going forward every single day in this mission. So just the memory of them.
That is so beautiful, and what
Yeah.
a spark. I want to look at for 444
444.
whenever I'm around you,
Yeah.
because that's your guardian angel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Tisha,
you
for being
for
on here.
having me.
You're such a light. You're such an inspiration. I mean, you are a true trailblazer for so many others, and you really are changing the world.
Thank you.
One product at a time and one vision at a time, and your message is so clear.
Thank
And we just want everyone to hear it. So thank you so much
Thanks
for
having
coming.
me. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Spark Sessions. Until next time, keep the fire burning.